How's it going? Good day to everyone. So, today I'm just going to talk fairly briefly about Princess Leia, Organa, Amidala, Skywalker, Solo. She's a lot of surnames, and you'll find out why soon. But no, she's a really interesting character, actually, but perhaps without the depth and complexity of certain characters that have been talked about so far, the sort of Siths and Jedi's and so forth that tend to garner most of the praise and enjoyment of the Star Wars fanbase. But Leia's actually such a fascinating character. Um, so, just a brief overview of her life. So, she was born, as you may well know, as the sister of Luke Skywalker, born to Padme and Anakin, and her mother died in childbirth or just after childbirth. Um, when at this point it was decided by the remaining members of the Jedi Order that her and Luke should be sent to different places. Luke was taken by Obi-Wan Kenobi to Tatooine, um, where he was adopted by a family there, and that's another story for a different video. And then Leia was taken to be and was adopted by the royal family on Alderaan. Her father, Bail, her adopted father, Bail Organa, was was a senator to the Imperial Senate at the time, and the Imperial Senate was obviously the sort of figure of democracy under the emperor. And yeah, so basically, Leia grew up learning to be a princess. She wasn't super into all the ceremonial princessy things, but she did them anyway. Um, and then over the years, she eventually became a senator herself. She was the youngest senator elected to the Imperial Senate, which is pretty cool. And the whole time, she had sort of had this idealistic view that she'd be able to make real change, and the Senate was a place where things could actually change. And then she got there and realized that, well, actually, they're all just sycophants that serve the Emperor and do whatever they want, do whatever he says, Emperor Palpatine himself. And what's kind of cool about all this stuff, it's the kind of cool side of Leia, and this is the side you don't really see so much in the main franchise and, the Skywalker saga, is that all this time there was actually these complex political things happening. You kind of have this view of Palpatine was just this all-powerful emperor, which, he was pretty insanely powerful. But Leia basically was operating in this time where there was this semblance of democracy going on. And yeah, there was all these interesting political machinations, and the emperor was still trying to make it seem kind of like there was democratic systems in there, and there were senators who had genuine desire to change things. And what's interesting is she worked a lot with Vader in the early days, which is fascinating, that like she dealt with him and spoke with him as a senator. And Vader was a political figure as well as a sort of dark lord of the Sith, and so you kind of deal with this other side of him, which is kind of interesting. And that's what we kind of get to see through Leia's journey. But anyway, let me move on. I'm getting caught up in the details. Yeah, Leia basically became a senator, and during her time as a senator, she started to get involved with the rebellion against the Empire. And this was partly because initially she wouldn't have been interested in something like that, but once she had seen that actually the Empire was just a farce, it was the so-called Senate was just a farce. It was a ceremonial unit that just affirmed everything that Palpatine said, and that real change wasn't possible through the Senate. She realized that the rebellion was probably the only way to bring an end to the evil empire of Palpatine. And so another interesting thing is and it sort of ties into the fact that Leia is the daughter of Anakin, and is a force-sensitive being. She always detected such a deep aura of evil around Palpatine, which there's always an aura, but like she obviously detected the dark side of the Force, which is fascinating. And another funny thing is, I mean, if you picture her working with Vader, her father, and neither of them knew. Yeah, I mean, and you get to see a little bit of that in the movies, of course, as well. In episodes 4, 5, and 6, which Roddy inexplicably doesn't really like. But anyway, that's beside the point. Yeah, so she started working with the Rebel Alliance, um, and she a few different things over this time, and um, some great adventures with her, sneaking information to them and smuggling it around, and all the times of living on Coruscant and being a diplomat and a senator and all those things. But then we have obviously the famous moment where she is captured by Vader, and the Imperial Senate is dispersed, or whatever the word is. And then this is in A New Hope, and she has to watch as her homeworld gets destroyed, along with her family and the whole planet where she grew up on, and where she was to be queen one day. Um, and so at this point, she's sort of still known as Leia Organa. Remember, Senator, Princess, Senator / Princess Leia Organa. And it is at this point where she sends the message to Obi-Wan, and with R2, help me, Obi-Wan, can I be your only hope? That famous line. And yeah, so she acted as a commander then in the Rebel Alliance once her sort of senatorial days were unceremoniously ended. And then at the end of that war, at the end of that point when the new Republic was established, she then trained as a Jedi under Luke, but eventually, and married Han Solo, obviously, the best character in all of Star Wars. So that's I think that also is one kind of cool thing about that, is you kind of see her her rebel side coming out more there, because she never really conformed to the princess and the "oh, be a good girl" kind of thing that her aunts and all the ladies of the court in Alderaan always tried to force her to do, which is kind of nifty. So I kind of like that. She ended up with the bad boy, crazy guy who was good, but really quite a hardcore, rebellious type of guy, and she kind of went for that. She could handle him, and he could handle her, I guess. But yeah, I kind of always found that kind of cool. But yeah, then she gave birth to Ben Solo, and after that, after he grew up and her health deteriorated and her relationship with him deteriorated and he was corrupted to the dark side, she but yeah, basically when her personal and her political life started to suffer and she was sidelined by the Galactic Senate and a whole other series of events, she returned to her position as general, and she helped in leading the resistance against the Final Order. And what was interesting is, during this time, she had lost Ben, and Han was off all over the place, and then eventually ended up getting, obviously, killed by Ben as Kylo Ren. And it was during this time that the events of the episodes 7, 8, and 9 were happening, and we saw her then take on the position of training Rey in the Force, and this was as her health was declining more and more, and she had lost her husband, and she didn't really have too much left to live for. One of the last things she did was trying to use her remaining strength, whatever was left in her, to call out to Kylo Ren / Ben Solo, and to try and attract him back to sort of the light side of the Force. She then died in the 35 ABY, just before the resistance forces. So I'm getting my various stages mixed up. Resistance forces defeated the First Order across the galaxy. And at this point, she was basically Leia, Skywalker, Organa, Solo, which kind of explains her whole name because she was born to Anakin Skywalker and Padme Amidala. So you could also slip an Amidala in there if you want. And Organa was her adopted family, and then Solo was the family she married into. So yeah, she's a really interesting character. I really like her. I really like the aspect of her that is sort of political. I've always been someone who likes politics. So I love the fact that she was this idealist, political idealist who believed in that democracy and processes could change and improve people's lives, and it's in that way she's a really relatable character to me. I love her feistiness, her positive aggression, and yeah, it's just really cool. And she's one of the characters that doesn't necessarily get a lot of airtime, which is understandable because she's not really a main character in this primary series that exist. But she's got a really cool story, and she went through a lot of crazy stuff, and yeah, she's pretty cool like that. I like her. That's probably just about all I've got for now. And obviously, you've got these things where you could go into crazy amounts of detail on little points. But yeah, she's great. That's sort of her story arc, and it's fascinating. And one last thing I think that's kind of cool is the way you see the different sides of who she is, and I love it. She's like a really complete character. She's the princess, the royalty, and there's the scene in, I think it's in New Hope, where she sort of plays that role and gives out the medals to Han and Chewie and them, and then there's the warrior, the general, which you see in 7, 8, 9, and also in 4, 5, and 6. And there's the mother, and there's the politician, and there's the Jedi. And I think it's cool you see all these different sides of her. And she's just really complete that way. So yeah, that's probably all I've got for now. Thanks for sticking with me. Go check out all the other videos done by the other guys, which are awesome. And yeah, really cool. Thanks for sticking with me. Peace.